Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'll just round up and say that we can't cheat the process. We should just know that we can't cheat the process, and we should try as much as possible to be open-minded in any approach we put forward in our own self-development or in any kind of develop any process of growth we find ourselves. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate that. Was a very insightful and very educative one. So next up, we'll be moving to the question and answers. But before then, please, I dropped a link to a Google form on the chat. Please try to fill the form. That's the feedback form, and it's very important. So you can drop your questions on the chat. If you have any question for any of the speakers, please kindly drop it on the chat. Or you can even unmute yourself and ask the question. Hello, anybody? No question? Like, does that mean we all understood everything that was said today and we are not confused about anything?
There's a hand raised from Dauda Lawal. I don't know if you have a question.
Hmm?
Yeah, you can speak now.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, we
Yeah,
can hear you.
yes, I really appreciate the present. Appreciate this wonderful session. So I will really appreciate. Yeah, my question is, check it.
Sorry, it's not very clear. Hello? You are
Can you
not
hear me
clear
now?
enough, please. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. My question is there any checklist that someone can use just to measure the progress? Maybe you're working on any project or your personal learning. So if there's any framework or checklist that someone can just use to monitor the progress, or if there's any application that the presenter can recommend, so I would really appreciate them. Hope you got my question right.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we got it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I can take a stab at that question. Um, like I said, in my opinion, it's difficult to say there's a magic tool or there's a magic bullet, right? And it's not like you're saying you're working on something. What tool do you use to just figure it out, right? Let's bring things down very simple. Let's say you wanted to watch a YouTube video, right? You don't need any tool. The progress bar on your YouTube, that red bar that moves, tells you whether you have watched beginning of the video or end of the video. First of all, you load a YouTube video that's supposed to teach you introduction to NFTs or whatever. You know, merely looking at the screen, you can see that the video is 5 minutes 25 seconds, right? And then you start watching, and at some point you get distracted or your internet hangs or you have to do something else, and then you pause the video. You pause the video. You're pausing the video at 2 minutes 13 seconds, and the whole video is 5 minutes 35 seconds. That is your progress. That's where you are, right? At that point, you can judge yourself and say, can I complete this video now or not? If somebody asks you, have you watched the introduction to NFTs video? The answer is no, I haven't completed it, right? Second thing would be, if you're taking another course, sometimes you take a course on Udemy or Udacity, right? It's always very clear, there are 50 lessons or 36 lessons in the course, 5 modules. If you have stopped at module 2 or module 3 out of the 5 levels. That's where you are. If you're doing something more, I don't know, more specific, I don't know, maybe writing code, let's not just talk about learning, because learning is very easy to understand. Learning is progress-based, and you can figure things out, right? But if you have the simplest to-do list in the world, you know, or you work on a team that is on a sprint, you know, working on a project, and there's stuff in the project backlog, you guys are using maybe Trello or Jira or stuff like that. Those tools also usually automatically tell you the percentage progress you have made, right? So if there are 10 items in the backlog and there's estimated time for each of the items, you know, in hours or man hours, and as a team, you guys are supposed to finish this sprint and release this feature at the end of Q1, end of March, right? If it's in January and you find out that out of 10 items on the backlog, the product backlog, you've only been able to do 2 or 3, that is a measure of where you are, right? So you see the important thing about, and that's why I try to emphasize the critical thinking framework. I love the way you're already thinking when you're asking yourself, how can I judge my progress? This is the kind of thing that SMART goals, OKRs, and try to enforce, where at every point in time, you're trying to do a metric assessment of, so where am I right now? You're trying to measure it. So the measurement will always be different. If the measurement is different for someone that's making a journey, for someone that is, it could be distance, it could be time, it could be number of items on the backlog, of product features to implement, it could be hours or number of modules you're reading. At every single point, depending on the specific task, then you can determine how much progress you're making or whether you've completed it or not. I think and that's why I said it's not really about the tools or whether there's one prescriptive or tool that will do it all for you. If you have a pen and a paper, right? I have an OKR that is, let me put on my camera, that is on 0 right now. Let me see, is my camera catching it? Okay, it's a post-it notes. I don't know, because I'm doing blurs. But the bottom line is that I have 5 things. Raise PO for this, raise PO for that, register this, register that, do judging, and then take the privacy training or whatever. Those are 7 things on my list. And ideally, I want to get all of them done in the first week of the year, before Friday, right? Today is, you know, Sunday, tomorrow is Monday, public holiday. If I check these things off on my list, if I give them equal weights, and I say each of them, okay, there's 6, let's say about 5, and I say each of them has the same weight, that means I have 100% of tasks to do. For everyone I do, I'm 20% in. And if I do all 5 of them, I've done all. So what has happened there? I can measure my progress. It's not just like somebody else says, oh boy, I get things to do, I'm very busy. How busy are you? I am 5 priority tasks busy. And I like what Nnamdi said about write out all the 10 things you want and then just choose 3 of them and do only those 3, right? Make sure you do what is urgent and important at the top. So at any point in time, if I look at the tasks I have and I realize one of them is more important than one of the things I'm even planning to work on next. It's classic thing with the product backlog on any software development team. I move the privacy training to number 2, priority 3 on my list. And I knock off the other one and say that one becomes less priority. It is just that simple. Definitely, when you get into teams, if you're doing remote work, if you're doing some real collaborative large software projects, tools will be imposed on you by your organization and all that. But seeing that, I think a lot of this has to do with like our own personal, you know, goals or KPIs or what we want to achieve. I like the other one that Nnamdi talked about like maybe you wanted to be a front-end developer. You're looking at somebody, what the person is earning, and you're asking yourself, how do I judge my progress from here to here? Well, go check out something like roadmap.sh or one of these tools that lists out all the things you need to know. Or some people have written like a front-end developer guide or cloud developer path, all the technologies you need to know and the kind of like things, you know. And it's clearly listed out, even on Free Code Camp. When you jump on Free Code Camp or anything, you say you want to become a full-stack developer, the things you ought to know to be able to achieve this level is clearly there. Or you jump on a job application. I tell startups to do this a lot, just like job applicants to do this a lot. You want to work in FANG, you want to work at Google, you want to work at, if someone says they want to work in DevRel. My brother, pick up the requirements for the job. There's 10 things in the job descriptions, and there's 5 things in the basic requirements. Check off the ones you have and the ones you don't have, and figure out whether you're 100% ready for the role or not. I tell startups, when you apply for, oh, great question. I don't know if I can your question. When you apply for accelerators or incubators or funding, you start to see the questions that VCs or funders or accelerator managers are asking you. Do you have cap table? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have COO? Do you have term sheets? Do you have a board of directors? Do you have all that? If you are going through the application and you're trying to get into Y Combinator and you get to a point and you find out you don't have that, then you stop there. And that's something you need to go and fix, because you say, like, in the next 3 to 6 months, we want to be raising money. We want to be an accelerator, Techstars, or Y Combinator. We want to tread the path that pays that. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I want to scale my fintech. That's your objective. How are you going to scale your fintech? You don't even have your documentation in place. So there's some things you will do. So at that point in time, it's not necessarily whether you have the best OKR tool or whether you. It's simple to-do lists or a list of things you need to do, or maybe a spreadsheet where you check off things. Or yeah, you could go ahead and do Week Done or any of the other tools, Sheet Go and the rest. I'm not even a fantastic thing with them, but you could go ahead and use those to track your progress. You could use Trello on a personal note. You know, you can get more sophisticated about it. I'll show you how I facilitated a training or like a session at Google for Startups Africa. And then the team at Stairs Business decided to adopt OKRs. In fact, I was so impressed by how they implemented OKRs that I don't think I can even implement OKRs at this level, you know. And then there's something that they mentioned somewhere in the article about why they decided to do that data and why they, implement. So I'll share this article with you. It was something about their 2020 experience. So I'll just leave it in the chat. And you see that these guys went on, got the idea that, okay, we need to measure what we are doing so we can figure it out. They went, did their own research, did their own tools, and somewhere in their 2020 year in review kind of thing, it talked heavily about OKRs and the Measure What Matters, and they went to read the real book by John Doe about Measure What Matters, and then they figured out the way amongst themselves how they're going to be tracking what they're doing. So eventually you need to find what works for you. If that's your mental brain giving you, alarms or ticks, asking me, have you done this, have you done that? You've only done 3 out of the 5 tasks you say you're going to do this morning. Great. If that is your to-do list on a sheet of paper on a napkin or a post-it note that you check things off, where you've checked off all 5 things, you squeeze it and then you throw it in the dustbin and say, I finished that work. That's fine. Whatever works for you, honestly, unless you're in a big team imposed by everything you do must be done in Jira or done in this or done in Basecamp and stuff like that, I would say to track your progress, the first thing you just need to do a little bit of documentation with whatever tool that works for you, and then check it off. But also, as you read and research about OKRs and tools that other teams or other people or any specific methodology people are using, whatever kind of charts they're using, try them out. But I think to me, and I'm speaking, like I said, a lot of things I'm sharing here from personal experience. It is the mindset and the thinking framework that asks you every single time, this thing I'm doing, how does it move the company forward? Why am I doing it? How will I know when I'm done? If you come to me now and say, even my teammates come to me and says, we want to work on something for the AI Research Center in Ghana or something like that. We want to do more of Google Maps in dev first, blah, 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 blah. I will ask you the first question is, what does success look like? I want to see the vision. It's okay. Success looks like 100 people signing up on the platform and building up to 10 scalable solutions that use Google Maps, and maybe two major companies who are already using Google Maps in their product. That may be Safe Boda, Uber, and I'm talking about local, maybe Safe Boda or Go My Way or some of that, Max.ng, working with our team to do this. I now clearly understand what success looks like. So if that is what success looks like, if I can get one of Max.ng or Safe Boda or GoCada to now bring their Google Maps related problem and bring it to the team for us to solve, I've done half the work. And if I get 2 people to do it, I've done 2 of the work. If I get 5 people to do it, I've exceeded expectations, right? And then if I go into something and I say, this is the code lab, I create a small bit.ly link, and I say, those of you who click this link to go and try out the code lab, if you finish the code lab, please send some feedback to someone. If my idea was to try and get 100 people not even my idea, if the team that brought this task to me, success for them was that 100 people tried out this API, and I can get 100 people tried out. It's done. At that point, it doesn't really matter what the tool is. I will send my report in an email that says, following up on our conversation on this project, this is this. Out of the desire to get 100 people involved, we got 150 people. Out of 2 companies that were supposed to be there, we're only able to get 1 company, and out of someone that tried this out, we're able to get 3. I think the mindset that asks you, what does success look like? How do I measure it? How do I track it? How do I know when I get there? I think that's one of the most important things about SMART. Another thing goes. Let me quickly rush this one in case Nnamdi wants to answer. In the process of trying to religiously follow up, okay, how do you overcome procrastination? I wish I knew this answer. Excuse me. Procrastination is the thief of time. Procrastination is a bastard, right? But one of the things that fuels procrastination is indecision. To be very honest, when you have too many things to do at the same time, you all do this classically. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tabs open right now on this window, and I have Microsoft Edge, I have Google Chrome, and I have Mozilla Firefox. Each of them probably has 3 instances of their tab array. So let's say 10 times 3 is 90. So I probably have 90 tabs open on Firefox, 90 tabs open, 30 tabs open on Firefox, 30 tabs open on Edge, and 30 tabs open on Chrome, which means I have 90 windows working, right? It's very easy to switch from one to the other for a notification or something to pop up somewhere or a sound, and I'm looking for where did that come from, and I want to go and just do something and I get lost. Narrowing down what you're doing, everything cannot be important. Like if you're the kind of person who says, I have 10 things to do, all of them are urgent and important, or you have big issues, this our call will not help you solve that issue. We need to find another call, another resource person. You must be able to itemize your thing. You must be able to prioritize, and you must be able to focus. You may procrastinate. People have different work patterns. I do a lot of fantastic work from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. that affected my sleep patterns and my snoring and other things like that. But that's when I do my most effective work. So even if I had a priority list right now, unless it was a matter of do or die, where they said I had to submit this thing by 12 midnight Pacific time or something like that, I would be more comfortable doing my critical work at the time when I'm most productive. So yes, I could come now and respond to emails, review some documents. But if I needed to come up with a concept or write a project or a project proposal for my manager or to present to the Google Africa team, I'm doing that work at 2 a.m. Right? So how do you kill procrastination when you stick it to OKRs? I think that's a bigger topic about about procrastination. I mean, there are techniques like Pomodoro, stay 45 minutes, do one task, take a break. But there's a lot of things you get there. But the first things that you must prioritize, and like I said, I refer back to Nnamdi. You write down all the things you're doing and ask yourself a question: which one is more important? Which one will bring money? Which one will get me in trouble if I don't do? Get me fired or get me a query? Make sure that the most important things bubble to the top, and then just start from the top. You can kill the other 7 down. I totally support Nnamdi on that. Write out 10 things that are important to do or 10 things that you need to do on your to-do list. Strike out everything that's number 4 down. That's one important at a time. And like Nnamdi said, if you can't measure it, you can't track it. So that thing you want to do, I mean, even people that write content or essays or blog posts, they have numbers they're chasing, 200, 2,000 words, this and that, 6-minute read. So if you're writing that blog post and it's part of the work you're supposed to do, if you say I'm writing a blog post and you end up with 300 words, when the specification to get paid or to meet the requirements of your employer or your editor was to write a 2,000-word technical article, you've not started. So whatever, so when I say, are you working on the blog post? Say, yeah, I'm trying, I'm just putting my thoughts. I've been in this situation many times. But right now, if I'm in that kind of situation and my manager asks me, say, are you done with this report? Even if I cannot itemize it down to words, I come back to you and say, hey, Aniedi, there's like 5 sections to this report. The one is the current situation, what happened, and what my recommendations are. I've been able to outline the situation. I'm doing some research on the challenges, and out of like the 5 recommendations I want to give, I have 2 of them that I'm very clear I'm going to put in there. a lot of the other areas of this report, I have no idea what I'm doing, or I'm still working on it. That's fine. Somebody looks and says you have 5 sections, you've got 2 nailed down, 1 requires your research and something like that. That's your progress measurement there, right? And that's how you kill procrastination. You cut things into smaller chunks, one important thing at a time, and you do that one important thing at the most critical or most convenient time. I don't know if I answered your question, but trust me, I still procrastinate. Just don't even, I don't know. I'm not the example. I'm not the gold standard, but most people still do.
All right, thank you very much. Jumo, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, sir, for all the talk. I really appreciate for this time. Actually, my question is that um every time or let me say anytime I learn anything and I used to get it, I used to understand everything I learned. But when it's time to implement it, like now there was a time I'm learning JavaScript. So I can say I understand it to the core part, but when it is time to implement it, like use it to work on the page, it's like I used to have problem. But if it's like I'm learning the language solely now, I will understand the language. But when it's time to implement it, I get lost. Like I don't know how to go about it again. So that is my question. Thank you, sir.
I think Nnamdi is the more correct software developer, so I'll leave that to Nnamdi. Nnamdi, I can't hear you. I don't know about others. I have to mute and unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right. So
Yeah,
it's a normal feeling, and the only thing I would advise you do is that there's something that always happens when you feel frustrated when you're near the solution. And what you should try and do is pen down what part makes you go back to thinking whether you're fit for this role or you actually understood JavaScript like you talked about, and take smaller bits of that same application of this knowledge. Let's take, for example, I know some developers or some software engineers always think the harder the task, the better my opportunity of understanding the language. But most times, the most ridiculous blog posts you read online or you watch on YouTube or your friend even shares with you can be the best channel for you to just understand one small concept about JavaScript you're trying to apply. And the thing you should also, like, let me just reel out that there are no perfect fixes for this kind of things, because there's an enthusiasm that comes with learning a module in a programming language, and you just rush into trying to apply it and you hit a roadblock. It happens most, like 8 times out of 10, and that is where the brain muscle or about anything you're trying to get into now comes into play, because you just have to give yourself time and you'll figure it out. That time now is what you now have to figure out what works for you. Because for me, I might actually make something work, but when I might understand what really happened when that thing worked might be 2 or 3 months later. But the end goal at that particular moment was for me to achieve that like immediate goal, which is apply that concept I just grabbed and maybe I might not have the time to fully understand it deep down, but it might just be a mere conversation of talking to maybe somebody who is asking me for advice on how he or she can choose a path in tech, and a light bulb will just come up. And that thing I was struggling with automatically now makes a lot of sense in it, because the context now is I am trying to explain to somebody, and somewhere in my head, the brain just recollects that I was struggling with something that didn't make sense before, but automatically I'm now applying it in trying to make somebody else understand that same concept. So there are no perfect fixes, but what I'll tell you now or advise you to do is JavaScript is a language, and in most cases, you might not even use 65% of all the like concepts or what they even call methods in JavaScript or functions or whatever name they call it at the current feature you're working with. But what you should know is for whatever you're trying to apply using the JavaScript language or JavaScript as a tool you're using to work with, break it down into smaller bits and get it working first. It might just be asking a friend, how does this thing, I've been struggling with this and it didn't work. How can I get it to work? Now, your friend might be a very good orator, somebody who talks very well. And while he's explaining to you, automatically, your brain just clicks and that already solves that problem. So that's the essence of community-based conversations that happen on WhatsApp, might happen on Zoom, or happen on calls like this, because it might just be something that you're not even related to, but somebody says something that sparks up an interest which you had in something you were struggling with, and your solution comes before you, and you run again back to your system or back to your working environment to test it out. And if it works, automatically you just gain a feather to your experience level. I think that would be my advice to you.
All right. Thank you
All
very
right, thank you,
much.
sir.
We'll be taking one more question from the chat. The question is from Adedokun at Kindly. He said, I am working, trying to process my online BSc degree and trying to be a developer. How can I go about this? I have tried several means of proceeding and I keep starting all over again. Then he said, and sometimes I felt like I am trying to process too much. Will it be advisable to forget about school and focus more on being a software developer or the other? Yeah. Okay, that's the question.
Okay, so Kindly, my advice to you is just calm down first. Just breathe, take the deepest breath you've ever taken in the last 24 hours, and find out what part of software engineering you want to focus on. You might be trying too hard on something that might not be your interest or might not be what your energy could fit into. So if you're struggling at something, it's either you're repeating something that doesn't work with your personality or something that you're not comfortable with at that particular point in time. So all you just need to do now is take a step backwards and look at this the origin and find out where the destination is, so that it gives you the ability to now know what I need at this point in time and what I will need to improve on as I move along this path that I want to follow. Because truth be told, the software space is broad, but there is this popularity about being in the development, um, like the forefront of seeing the product, and being part of the shiny part that the user gets to see. But if you, because most times people forget is the life cycle, the software development life cycle. That means there are lots of components that make it happen the way it is. So it's just for you to know where you fit, and it's not going to do any harm to your personality or your the way you see things if you tell yourself that this is not going to work for me now, but maybe being a software tester or somebody who actually reviews people code or somebody who actually designs interface or somebody who even just makes sure that the team is ticking, because these are roles that are very important in the life cycle of every product development process. So it's just for you to look at what is possible and do what you need to do to make sure you achieve what you're capable of um, um, doing, so that you feel the main goal here is self-fulfillment, because for every failure you find a solution to, there's this happiness that comes to you temporarily, and you start again looking for the next adventure. So take your time, take a step backwards, look at what you've done, look at what is available on the life cycle, and ask yourself very, very sincere question whether this is something I can do or this is something I need to drop, and maybe look at other things that sparks a bulb in my head, and I think you'll figure it out. BS is very important. Software engineering is also, software development cycle is very important too.
All right. Thank you very much, Nnamdi. That was very, very insightful. All right. We'll have our vote of thanks from Mohammed Ali. Please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sir Aniedi and Sir Nnamdi. Thank you very much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. I believe this night is a night well spent and a very great way to start a year. Thank you once more, and thank you to everyone who has joined this session to learn one or two things. And I just want to tell the presenters that from the feedback we've gotten, everyone is really happy. It's been insightful and fantastic, according to one of the persons. Sanamji. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Mohammed Ali. So I think this will come to the end of this session. And thank you very much to the speakers and everybody for joining us.